Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. Delighted to have you here with us. In today's webinar, you discover how next-gen AV with EDR coupled with behavior-driven security awareness training is a winning combination to safeguard against targeted attacks. I'm Treva Stankard, Channel Marketing Lead here at TitanHQ. I'm joined here today with Stephen Burke, Product Manager at TitanHQ, and Luke Connolly, Partner Manager at Emsisoft. Thank you both for being here today. So just to make a few notes before we start, the webinar will be recorded and will be sent out to you afterwards. And if you have any questions, you can contact us directly and we will get back to you on those. We will also have a special offer from TitanHQ and Emsisoft. So if you're interested in that, if you just enter the survey at the end, just express your interest and we will reach out to you straight away. And just to give you all a quick overview of the products, or sorry, not the products, the businesses here today. Just make sure my screen is right. Perfect, yeah. So those aren't familiar. So TitanHQ is a best-in-class cybersecurity platform delivering a layered security to MSPs. Established in 1999, TitanHQ is headquartered in Galway, Ireland, with an office in Shelton, Connecticut. TitanHQ protects users from advanced security threats with solutions for email security, DNS filtering, and security awareness training. Emsisoft is a New Zealand-based cybersecurity company established in 2003. They offer cutting-edge cybersecurity solutions for MSPs backed by a top-rated channel program. Emsisoft's endpoint security products have won numerous awards and are trusted by businesses from across the globe. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Stephen and I will leave you to it.
Thanks a million, Treva. Thanks, Luke. It's great to join you on another webinar. Hi, everybody. My name is Stephen Burke. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. So who am I? I'm founder of Safe Titan. I'm a former Chief Information Security Officer, so I know what it's like to be on the inside trying to protect corporate networks. And having built the business since 2016 and now part of TitanHQ, I've really become acutely aware as to what the relevant business risks are from a cyber perspective. And I think we as security professionals, we as IT professionals, it's so important that we look at this from a business perspective and not just technology and cyber. Why? Because at the end of the day, we're employed to protect the business. The business must always win. Without the business, there's nothing to protect, right? So that's why I wanted to open up by talking about cyber as a business risk. And there's no better way than to look at the Allianz business risk. It's a yearly report that gets brought out by Allianz. And cyber has ebbed and flowed, and it's typically been in the top 5. But this year, 2022 was released this year. Cyber incidents is now #1. It's the top business risk. So everybody, every company of every shape and size, no matter where it is in the world, this is top of the tree. And that's important because we have to focus on this and say, hang on, so many billions are being spent on cybersecurity, yet cyber incidents continue to increase. And why is that? And today, during our webinar, we're going to give some examples and ultimately explain or give some rationale as to why that is the case. Now, you'll notice on this report, the second risk to businesses that they're concerned about is business interruption. Now, business interruption during COVID was obviously the impact because of COVID and the pandemic. But interestingly enough, now business interruption is as a byproduct of the impact of cyber incidents. So the top 2 risks are very closely related here. Next slide, please. Now, when it comes to business risk, cyber incidents is one thing, but what specific cyber incidents or issues are companies most concerned about? It's ransomware attacks. So that business interruption caused by a ransomware infection, it's the inability to operate, it's having to restore data if one is lucky enough to have data that's backed up, and Luke can talk about that from Emsisoft perspective. But it's also the business reputation and the inability to operate as one would want to. So that's top of the tree, 57%. Data breaches, also 57%. And that's down to the actions of staff inadvertently, accidentally sending data to the wrong location or saving it in places that they shouldn't be saving it, or potentially, credentials have been stolen that then leads somebody to masquerade as that person. I would add to this, if this was updated from today's perspective, business email compromise, those BEC type incidents, where someone is masquerading or pretending to be the CEO or the CFO, asking people to wire money, fake invoices, changing of bank details, that will be in here. That has been a massive, there has been a massive increase in those types of incidents. And for those that are interested, I often find cyber insurance claim statistics are one of the best data sources to understand what's happening out there from cyber incidents and the impacts and the cost of those incidents. So now that I've set the scene, that is what's relevant to the business, cyber incidents, business interruption, and then that has led into ransomware and data breaches. Cyber criminals are actively targeting people. And there's no better slide to depict this, to the success that they're having. Next slide, please, Triva. Is that Stanford University, they conducted a poll, and they could see that 88% of all data breaches were caused by employee mistake. I've already alluded to this. Cyber criminals are targeting people to get to systems, to get to the data. And they trick people. It's called social engineering. But we also have people who are unaware of the risks. They try to circumvent the controls within an organization because they're trying to do their job as efficiently and as effectively as possible. They don't think of risk. They're not hired to think of risk. They're hired to do their job. It's us in IT and IT security to raise awareness. And from today's webinar perspective, we are raising awareness as to what our solutions together, that they are a game changer in raising awareness for people so that they know the risks, they know that they should follow policy, and that hopefully they will avoid becoming a statistic, which is a breached employee and a breached company. Next slide, please. And when people are operating, doing their day-to-day job, it's often best described as the security culture is what employees do when the security team isn't looking. I always had only 2 or 3 people on my staff across multiple offices around the world, hundreds if not thousands of employees. I was never going to be, or my team was never going to be able to be on site looking at what people were doing. And so when people are on their devices trying to do their effective job as efficiently as possible, they will cut corners. And what I mean by cutting corners is they'll get around certain controls that prevent them from doing their job as quickly as possible. So they'll find new ways of doing it. That's the culture of the organization. And that's why we often say here, it's what employees do when the security team isn't looking. However, Luke will talk about this. There are solutions monitoring corporate networks, monitoring devices. So we actually can see what's happening on our networks. And as we have hybrid working now, we're also able to track what's happening on those devices, provided we're monitoring and logging so that we can go back in time and be able to answer that awkward question, which will be going back 6 months. How did that person get onto this network? What did they touch? What did they do? God forbid, if you have an incident, you need to be able to answer that question. That's why there's monitoring. And it enables us to then be able to say, actually, we are able to see what people are doing. Next slide, please. So this workplace behavior challenge. So we know that cyber criminals are targeting people and they're tricking people into doing stuff that we otherwise wouldn't do. So clicking on links, opening email attachments, that's a common one that we all talk about, yet is still highly effective. But maybe less spoken about are people using personal accounts, personal email accounts to conduct work activities. Someone's emailing their personal account to work on a document because they maybe can't access work documents on the weekend through the corporate network. Reusing passwords across multiple accounts. That's a common one we all talk about. We talk about changing passwords, adhering to various password policies. People typically will continue to reuse the same passwords. And that's where you get into password managers, where You don't want to even know what your passwords are. Let the password manager choose the password for you and call it when needs be. These are simple tips and tricks, but people don't use them in their personal lives, maybe in work, maybe more so. But again, department sharing accounts and passwords in spreadsheets. Again, I spoke at a public event, 300 or 400 people from finance departments, access to billions of dollars, and they're, sure enough, when I asked the question, do you guys have any passwords stored in spreadsheets that you're all able to access? Yeah. Not realizing the risk that this represented, because the whole workforce in the entire organization also had access to this spreadsheet. So there was open mouths, and I could leave the room afterwards until I gave some advice as to what they could do to mitigate this. Which, by the way, was retrieve a password on the fly from a password vault and log that activity. Now there's other ones here: downloading free software, unsafe web browsing, weak data protection practices, and little to no understanding of policies. These are all common. I'm sure most people are probably nodding their heads to say, yeah, we still have this in our organization. Security policies is an interesting one. We all put in place our security policy documents, but if you ask a staff member on any given day, they won't have a clue. They'll tick the box and say they've read it each year, but they won't know what's in there. And it's on us to try and raise awareness of what those policies are and why they're important to protect the organization and to protect the individuals. And we'll talk about that later on in terms of, what we're here to talk about today, which is EDR plus AV and security awareness training, how you can combine all three to have the most effective security awareness program in place to raise awareness of best practices and those policies. Next slide, please, Triva. So now that I've explained common workplace behaviors, cyber criminals are also aware of these behaviors. They're actively targeting people to get to systems, to get to the money, to get to the data, to sell it. And they have commercialized their cybercrime, their crime packs. They lease them out to organized criminals and to wannabe cyber criminals. So Triva on today, sorry for picking on you, Triva, but Triva could lease a crime pack for $100, $120 per month and start running a criminal empire. Next slide, please. Once Triva's logged in to the crime pack, Triva will be able to see, well, what's working within the crime pack. What pieces of software or malware, malicious software are actively infecting computers? What operating system? What browser? Where in the world am I having most success? And be able to track how effective they are in terms of infections and maybe getting access to computers, stealing data, installing ransomware, getting payments. Full dashboard of data analytics here, and they're tracking how effective it is. Now, this is not just one organization. There's multiple service providers providing these services as part of this crime pack. And that's what I'm talking about. The commercialization of cybercrime is no longer one individual. It's groups of individuals. It's almost like businesses working together. And when Triva suddenly notices a drop-off in her criminal empire and not making as much money, guess what? Triva gets a free update, all part of the lease fee, by another group that has said, oh, that malicious software is no longer infecting computers. I'll give you an update that I now know is not being blocked and not being detected by other security products. Now, the question you ask yourself is, how the hell do you know that? Next slide, please, Triva. feartest2.com. Please don't go to this website. This is more informational sharing than anything else. But here is a service being provided by another little organized criminal gang to test their new malicious software package is not going to be detected or blocked by various security products, all the products that we look to buy. Now, I'm not saying that these products don't work. What I'm saying is we need multiple layers of defenses, because at any point in time, something may no longer be detected. We all talk about signatures, we talk about heuristic security, we talk about AI in today, but they all have to learn. They have to feed off something at some point in time to detect it. If this is brand new and never been seen before, it ain't gonna block it. So knowing this, knowing you've got all these multiple parties working together, targeting people to get to the systems, because it's far simpler to trick a person than try and break through a corporate network. That's why we talk about focusing on the human side of security and not just the technical side. Next slide, please. And so when we look at this, we say, hang on, 90% of security budgets are being spent on technical prevention, right? Multiple layered defenses. And yet, if you look at those cyber insurance claim statistics that I mentioned before, 90%, over 90% of incidents are caused by the actions of staff, human error, the accidental or the inadvertent insider. It's often referred to as insider risk. Now, sometimes you have a malicious insider, okay, but it's often quite small. But the accidental, the inadvertent insider who's tricked, who doesn't realize the risk that they're taking by downloading free software, that's just inadvertent. The convenience seekers, storing those passwords in a spreadsheet and not password protecting it. Sending a file that's not password protected. Numerous examples of this. How can we tackle 90% of the incidents without focusing on the human, yet we're spending 90% of our budgets on technical? So we have to bring the two together, and that's what today's webinar is all about. EDR, AV, plus security awareness training, effectively getting back to the user in their exact moment of need, literally as they're carrying out certain activities on their devices or on the network, being like a cyber guardian angel on their shoulder saying, hey, you may not realize you're just taking a risk. Company policy states XYZ, or here's a tip and a trick for you on how to set a strong password or not to visit malicious websites. Numerous examples. And why is this important? Being there in the user's exact moment of need is because traditional spray and pray is not working. It's not changing risky behavior, because otherwise the incidents will be going down, but cyber incidents are going up. So spray and pray is a tick the box. It's saying we're doing something, but it doesn't say how effective it is. There's always been scheduled training and scheduled phishing simulations, but there's been nothing else to talk about. Now there is. Use the alerts that our technical defenses generate to trigger content. This also satisfies the other problem, which is companies don't know who to train, so they train everybody. Massive cost to the organization. Okay? No matter what size you are, you've got to take people away from the day job that you're paying them to do, to take training. Okay? There's a better way. Only train the people who need to be trained when they need it. So there's a cost benefit to this. There's a productivity benefit to this. And last but not least, when you run scheduled training and scheduled phishing, yeah, you might see that you've got a 10% susceptibility to phishing emails. You may see that 90% of people are completing the training, but that is not telling you that that training or that phishing test has been effective in changing that person or persons' behavior. It's not being tracked properly. But I'm here to tell you today, you can actually now map behaviors to alerts and track the frequency of those behaviors, and over time, see if those behaviors are reducing or increasing. Now, if they're decreasing, that's a positive sign that you're effective in your security awareness coupled with your monitoring. If it's not decreasing, you've got a culture problem that we talked about. So with that, I'm going to pause. I'm going to hand off to Luke, who's going to show the Emsisoft security products. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Stephen. One of the reasons that we at Emsisoft like to partner with TitanHQ is just the fact that today's cyber threat landscape is so complex. It requires a multi-layered approach in order to implement effective defenses. So today, I'd like to touch on today's cybersecurity threat landscape and sort of talk about what the best approach would be to defend against those threats. The threats continually evolve along with the changing nature of the internet. When the internet first started to be widely deployed in the early 1990s, having a firewall, either an Intel-based computer or at the higher end a Sun SPARC workstation, was seen as adequate protection. Obviously, that's not the case anymore. And today it's standard practice to have a stack of products and processes to protect your company, your employees, and your customers. Just last week, CISA issued an advisory referencing an aeronautical sector organization saying CISA, FBI, and CNMF, that's the US Cyber Command's Cyber National Mission Force, confirmed that nation-state advanced persistent threat actors, APTs, gained unauthorized access to a public-facing application, established persistence, and moved laterally through a network. At a high level, this sounds like a state-sponsored industrial espionage. But the relevance to this discussion is, if the bad guys can gain access to an aeronautical sector organization, what the heck are we supposed to do? Potentially any interaction with an external source can introduce a threat. And while it's important to keep this in mind, it's also important to maintain some context and some perspective about the nature of the threats that exist. What do you have that's of value to a cyber criminal, or to you for that matter? Maybe it's money, the reputation of your business, your intellectual property, or your customers' data. The specifics of your assets can act as an indicator to the risk that you face and can help to inform you in the security decisions that you make. Let's look at some of the threats to consider. Email-based attacks can have attractive payouts for criminals. Business email compromises, BECs, involve spoofed emails that look like they're coming from a trusted source, such as a company executive, an employee, or a vendor. They typically ask the recipient to transfer funds urgently, or they steal credentials by presenting the login page to a spoof system, such as a bank or a Microsoft account. They may rely on social engineering tactics to get their victims to act quickly. The amount of effort put into these attacks varies based on the nature of the target. They may send out masses of generic emails hoping to catch someone off guard who clicks on a link, or they can be very targeted to specific individuals. Cybercrime is also driven by geopolitical and economic factors. Today, the Russian-Ukraine war, for example, and rising poverty and food insecurity around the world are major contributors. Conflict provides a great proving ground for technological innovation, and we can expect that the tactics and techniques being used by Russia and Ukraine will threaten a wider audience in the future. The internet also provides a convenient means by which petty criminals facing economic insecurity can target and interact with the wealthy. As a common example, the Nigerian prince scam started years ago using fax and traditional mail, and we've seen it circulating via email for ages. Advanced persistent threats are nation-state actors and sophisticated cyber criminal groups which tend to focus their attacks on high-value targets. These attacks often involve intensive reconnaissance and custom malware designed to evade detection, and their targets align with their specific objectives, including intellectual property theft, geopolitical influence or advantage, or financial gain. Nation states steal money too, as North Korea did in 2016 when they compromised the SWIFT credentials of Bangladesh's central bank. $81 million was successfully stolen, and an additional $850 million transfer was halted. In fact, Analyst One reports that in 2021, North Korea stole nearly $400 million in cryptocurrency. Ransomware and cyber extortion remains among the top cyber threats in 2023. As Stephen mentioned, cyber criminals use a variety of techniques to gain access to victims' computers, proceeding to exfiltrate and or encrypt data for extortion purposes. This is a very real threat for organizations of all sizes because it's still an attractive revenue source for cyber criminals. Fileless malware operates in memory and leaves minimal traces, making it hard to identify using traditional methods. 0 days are particularly valuable to attackers because there are no available patches at the time of exploitation. MoveIt has been a very public example starting at the end of May this year and potentially impacting at least 1,200 organizations and 56 million individuals, although this data is several days old as of today, which is September 11th. Generative AI tools represent a new frontier in many ways. We expect that they'll be used by criminals to create more sophisticated malware in an attempt to avoid detection, or more convincing messages for use with phishing campaigns. Next slide, please. Due to the very nature of the threats that exist, the best defensive approach takes advantage of multiple technologies, processes, and procedures. Undertaking a security assessment can help in understanding the risks and how to best defend against them. Security awareness training, as Stephen is showing us, is absolutely vital because cyber criminals very successfully target employees in order to gain access. Endpoint security, and obviously I admit a small amount of bias here, is essential, full stop. Without it, all bets are off, and you might as well publish the login credentials to your bank account online. Data backups can be the difference between a business surviving or failing after a critical event, and this isn't limited to cyber attacks. And as I mentioned, a firewall was the first line of defense in the 1990s, and it's still part of a necessary defensive position. As long as cyber criminals target companies with business email compromise schemes, email security should be part of your security stack. One thing that's been clearly demonstrated in the internet era is that people won't, or can't remember multiple secure passwords, and multi-factor authentication as a technology can help tip the scale in your favor and away from the criminals. And finally, update management for all of your applications is necessary to minimize your exposure to new and evolving threats. So this isn't meant to be a comprehensive list of everything you should implement. It's intended really to give a high-level understanding of what you should consider when mapping out your security approach. It doesn't touch on things like threat intelligence, pen testing, SIEM source systems, intrusion detection, and so on. So let's dive a little more deeply into endpoint protection. Next slide, please. Looking at a product like Emsisoft's Enterprise Security with EDR as simply antivirus or even next generation antivirus is a little misleading. We implement multiple layers of protection, including monitoring for malicious activity, including over 1,500 MITRE ATT&CK TTPs, self-protection, and a range of remediation options, including quarantine, device and network lockdown, and rollback for the extremely unlikely possibility of files becoming encrypted. So what I'd like to do is show you how these multiple layers of protection actually implement and show themselves when we're looking at your endpoint. So what I'll do is share my screen and just walk through a few examples. I'm sharing my screen and I have a virtual machine here because what I'm going to do is actually detonate some lockbit malware. I have a couple of examples on my desktop. I had to turn off protection in order to transfer them here because simply moving them around will trigger FileGuard alert. So as I mentioned with Emsisoft, we have multiple layers of protection. We have web protection, FileGuard, behavior blocker, anti-ransomware, is a combination of all of the above, specifically looking for activities that ransomware tends to exhibit. So if I attempt to execute this malware on my desktop here, first I get a message saying the operation did not complete, and then I get verification on this dialog showing me that our FileGuard layer has identified and halted the execution of this malware. So that's great. But what if FileGuard doesn't know about the malware? So I can turn it off and that'll simulate that potential scenario. And in this case, we have behavior blocker existing as a layer of protection. So I have the same malware here. And again, I'll try to execute it. I'll double click on it. And right away, before it's able to implement anything malicious, I see that behavior blocker kicks in. And again, it protects the endpoint. So those are a couple examples of malware, but we talked about things like fileless activity, and even 0 days. And I have a PowerShell open here, and I'll use that to show a couple of examples of how our, and to execute a command to delete shadow copies, for example, vss admin delete shadows all quiet. Again, I see that it's identified as malicious behavior, and behavior blocker automatically kicks in and blocks that activity. So this is an example of, I'm using PowerShell, which is a Microsoft product. I'm executing things which are Microsoft commands, but our system identifies them as malicious. What if I actually do something like try to execute a batch file that's malicious? So I can do something like invoke expression, and I have some just a malware file here which attempts to make a change to my Windows firewall. So I'll do maltest.bat, and I'll just try to run that, and it's in my local directory. I'm in the wrong directory. That always happens in demos. Let's try that again. Invoke expression, maltest, and again, in this case, I'm trying to execute a malicious batch file that had not been seen before, a batch file that's not been seen before, and it's caught by behavior blocker. So in order to get around this, what threat actors often do is they'll try to obfuscate their commands. So instead of trying to invoke expression, they'll do something like, a short form is IEX, by the way, so invoke expression, and they'll try to obfuscate that by doing things like putting it together character by character. So if I do something like char int, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build it up character by character using the ASCII codes for the individual characters. So if I type in 105 is the ASCII code, 15 is the ASCII code, is the ASCII code for I. So I can use that, and I can build out the whole command, and then I can do something like obfuscate the name of the file that I'm using. And so what I've done here is I've broken out. Obfuscation is an attempt to try to trick the system into thinking that nothing malicious is happening. But in this case, we actually see, again, behavior blocker kicks in and it stops the command from executing. So right now, I've shown you a few layers of protection. I showed you the file guard. I showed you disabling file guard, and then I showed you behavior blocker, which catches malicious activity, which is attempting to encrypt files, for example. And then I showed you some actual living off the land where I'm using PowerShell. But what if you get to the case, again, it's quite unlikely, where some things have actually been encrypted. And I have that here. I have a separate VM, and I've run some malware, and I've encrypted the contents of a directory here. And if I go to my management console, so here's the Emsisoft management console. It's multi-tenant, so I'll go to this specific endpoint, and I'll look at the incidents panel, and I'll see the incidents that caused that encryption to take place. And what I can do is remediate threat. And that allows me to do a rollback, so it'll allow me to recover the files that have been encrypted. And this takes place within a few moments, and it doesn't do so by actually unencrypting the files. What it does is it maintains a rolling backups. Think of it as a window of all file activity. and that's a set of configurable attributes. And if something malicious happens, I can then go back and I can take advantage of that rollback capability to restore these files. So again, the point of this demo is to show that it's very important to be able to have multiple layers of protection, and not only technology, but to have security awareness training so that your staff is conscious of the threats that are constantly being faced with, and that they're being targeted by the malware actors. And with that, I'll pass it back to Stephen so that he can show that end of the equation.
Thank you very much, Luke. Hope everybody's managing to stay awake now, and as we're pummeling you with all this exciting new information. So I want to ramp it up a little bit, I guess, and off the back of what Luke has shown you and that amazing capability to obviously protect and prevent, but it's also actionable intelligence, if you will. And what I want to talk about now is obviously security awareness v2.0 and real-time intervention. It's always been my vision to leverage what the network tells us our staff are doing, to be that cyber guardian angel, to help people in their exact moment of need. So if we take what Luke was talking about, we have a user, they're on an endpoint, a device, they're doing certain things part of their day job, and then they look to make their lives easier and they perform a particular action. That could be malicious or it could be accidental, right? Let's take it's accidental at the minute. That action is recorded by EDR plus AV. It gets logged. And when it's logged, that is obviously satisfying a particular alert rule. That rule says, oh, I'm to do something with this alert. I'm going to send it off as part of a playbook to the SafeTitan orchestrator. That is a cloud-based orchestrator sitting in the cloud, listening for events or alerts to be sent to it by the client. In this case, let's say it's detected a malicious website. So EDR and AV has managed to detect somebody on the device trying to access a malicious website. The alert is generated, playbook is kicked off, it hits the SafeTitan orchestrator, and the orchestrator then parses that information looking for two fields: the name of the alert and the end user who triggered the alert in the first place. That's all that's needed here. Please note, there are no agents required by SafeTitan. It's all message driven, so nothing to be installed. You've done the installation already. EDR and AV is your installation. That's it. It's just messages after that. Fully encrypted end to end. The orchestrator parses that information, and because SafeTitan is hosted and built in Microsoft Azure, it's placed into an Azure event topic, and then that's picked up by our real-time API that tries to make a decision as to, was I expecting this alert to be received? If I was, great. What am I to do? It then says, oh, I'm supposed to send this new piece of training, or this snippet of the security policy, or this email message to the end user explaining the risk or the impact of their actions. And that's what I'm talking about. Cyber Guardian Angel on somebody's shoulder, literally helping them by we call it just-in-time training. So why don't I share my screen and show you how one does that? I can share my screen here. Thank you. Yeah, hopefully you can see my screen. And so here we have a SafeTitan portal. All right. On the left-hand side, as part of security awareness, you've got your traditional scheduled phishing manager, knowledge assessments or quizzes, and training manager to send out all your scheduled training content. So that's all available within the SafeTitan platform, like you would typically see from other vendors. Where we have gone above and beyond that is with our real-time integration capability, that AV and EDR combination hooking into security awareness. And we have the concept of events or alerts. So those alerts we talked about. And then we've got responses. What response shall I send back to the end user who has triggered that alert in the first place? All right. So in here, you're unlimited by your imagination. Any event, any alert that is generated is down to what an organization is concerned about. So if I was ever asked, where should I start with this? Well, you've got a risk register as part of your ISMS. What risks are you most concerned about? What keeps you awake at night? Oh, if someone in the finance department changed a bank account without, proper verification checks, or we processed mail fraud, or whatever the case may be, there's numerous actions. Or if someone downloaded free software that caused a ransomware infection, right? Okay, great. Are you monitoring for those actions of staff? Do you have that capability? Yes, we do. Yeah, we've invested in those technologies. Okay, great. You've now got an alert set up for it. Feed that into our system. And you simply do that by creating a new real-time response event. And in here, you pick the trigger type. Where did it come from? In this case, Emsisoft. You choose Emsisoft, and you then say, okay, what's the behavior I'm worried about? It could be downloading content from untrusted websites. And let's take the malicious website. So malicious website has been detected. A user has gone to malicious website inadvertently. They've been tricked. That's potentially going to lead to a ransomware infection. Okay, great. But it could be any behavior. We have a behavior database of over 80 behaviors. Why is it important to map it to a behavior? Because now we're going to be able to track the frequency of those behaviors tied to the alerts you're getting from your technical defenses. Okay. If we can detect the frequency of the behaviors, it tells us the behavior within the organization, the culture of the organization. And over time, we're then going to be able to measure this and say, well, is the frequency going up or down? If it's going down, happy days. We're now proving how effective a next generation security awareness training program works by leveraging all of our investments, getting that biggest bang for our buck, best return on investment that you could ever get in mitigating 90% of incidents by leveraging the tech. Okay. This is the name of the event or the alert that has been generated. You simply save it, and once it's saved, you then map content to that. In this case, detected a malicious website. What do I want to do? Well, I would love to be able to send an email. I'd love to send a piece of training. And if I use Skype, I could send a Skype message. You can add multiple real-time response actions, including emails. And one email could be like this. Fully customizable, branded in whatever which way you want to brand it. You've detected a malicious website, you would send this email to the end user, and it will be received like so. Malicious website detected. Hi, Stephen, don't worry, you are safe. It appears you have tried to navigate to a malicious website. Instantaneously raising awareness for that staff member. And guess what happens? I am not going to do that again, because I now have this highly sensory moment of, wow, I didn't realize that was risky. I didn't have a clue. I didn't even know that I could actually be the one person that caused an infection or ransomware in our organization. I won't do that again. I'll make sure I check what I'm doing. Think before we click. Again, it could be another message around data protection, unapproved file sharing. I'm saving a file to Dropbox. My company only uses OneDrive and SharePoint or Google Workspace, whatever it is. Again, I'll pick on Luke this time. Dear Luke, we've detected that you attempted to browse or upload information to an unapproved file sharing site. Again, the light bulb moment going, oh my God, I was only trying to do good. I was trying to work on this on the weekend. But there's a risk, and the people don't often understand the risk to the organization. But this highly sensory moment, they're now going to become aware of company policy, which can have a link to company data protection guidelines. Again, I said at the start, people don't know what's in your policies. But if we could break them down into bite-sized chunks, much more digestible, stickier in people's minds. So it's a game changer as to how we impart information that reduces risk. And you start off based on the risks that have the biggest impact, the highest likelihood to your organization. And it's all simply done by mapping content, customizing it based on your culture, the language you want to use, and sending it to staff members. And as I said in that diagram, AV, EDR, SIEM products, generate alerts. That's what feeds the system, all message driven. You simply then map content. And when you map content to it, you could choose a training course. You're simply mapping actions to these events now. Organization messages, those emails, training. This exposes our whole training library. So email, social engineering, removable media, mobile device, you name it. What these security alerts give you is context. It's the most important word when it comes to security awareness training. If I can give a staff member training in the right context, that means it's stickier. Context being your password is about to expire in the next 2 weeks. Let's send password or authentication security awareness training to a staff member whose password is about to expire. We know from the network that it's going to expire in 14 days. Send tips and tricks on how to set a passphrase, multi-factor authentication, password management. Boom, instantaneous. Where if I send out password training tomorrow, because that's what we typically have done, I've got to send it out at some point in time, I'll send it tomorrow, trying to get ahead of a problem. But my password or Luke's password doesn't change for 120 days. Guess what? I'm not going to remember it. The context is wrong. But if we can get the context right message to the right user at the right time. And this is what SafeTitan enables you to do along with Emsisoft. And at the end of the day, once you're then delivering this, it then becomes about the data. And the data is how many of these behavior events am I seeing? What is the probability of those behaviors into the future? And this is the information we give to the senior executives because it is a business risk. The business must always win. I started off with that at the start and I will end there. We're doing this for the business. And if we can demonstrate that, yes, we've spent money, thank you for the budget, but we're doing it for the right reasons. And here's now how effective that spend has been. We have mitigated human cyber risk, which is the highest probability, in excess of 90% known to have caused incidents. We have helped our staff. We have raised awareness. We've changed the culture in a positive way off the back of our technical investments in security products to give us the most informed education awareness program and content in the right context that changes that risk to an acceptable level. So I want to say a huge thank you, and I'm going to hand it back to Treva. And any questions, please fill in the survey, and we'd love to talk to you soon. Bye.
Stephen and Luke, thank you so much. That was really great, and great to see how well the two solutions complement each other so well. So yeah, thank you all for joining today. As I mentioned before, you can send questions directly to us. And if you're interested in TitanHQ and Emsisoft offer, please let us know in the survey at the end. It'll pop up shortly. So yeah, thank you again for joining, and we hope to see you at the next one.
Thank you very much.
Bye.